So conclusions. I am going to leave log shipping out of this discussion because I just don't think it's a realistic high availability option for most cases. So of the 4 remaining, replication, failover clustering, mirroring, and availability groups, let's talk about these. First of all, let's take replication. What does it protect? It's pretty interesting because it protects the availability of the instance and it protects the availability of the data. Pretty good. It's really excellent at scaling. It's almost unheard of how good it is at scaling. I can scale up in a matter of minutes once I've installed SQL Server on the computer. Scaling is almost instant. I can scale to virtual machines, so I could have some of my machines be physical and some be virtual. I could have them all be virtual. I could do whatever I want there. Scalability is outstanding, and availability is really, really high. What it's not particularly good at is, first of all, geographic dispersion. The replication process is prone to failure as it gets any kind of lag. So if I'm trying to put some of those machines across the continent from me, may not be a great solution. It's also not particularly good at handling downtime because I've got a network load balancer becomes my single point of failure. Now I can certainly buy two network load balancers and daisy chain them together, and they kind of, back each other up. But even so, it has that weakness. But all in all, if you need something that can be scaled up and scaled down quickly and does a good job of protection, it's great. What it's also, the other negative to it is it's a little tough to get set up. It traditionally takes playing with. Once it's up and running, it works really well. Okay, failover cluster. What does it protect? It protects the availability of your instance, and that's all it protects. It does not protect your data at all. And so if you were to ask any DBA, if I were to ask any of you, what would you rather protect, your server instance or your database, your data? If any of you goes for the instance option, then you should go home and sit in a corner and think about what you've done wrong, okay? That's bad attitude. I don't care if you can see the data nearly as much as I care if the data is intact. So failover clustering just doesn't protect my data. And so when I ask, what is it good for? In SQL Server, not a heck of a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, failover clustering is great for some things. But for SQL Server, I don't think it's much of a solution. And what it's bad at is what we've already talked about. Mirroring. It protects your data, and it kind of protects your instance availability, not real well, but it mostly is there to protect your data so you can have a warm standby. If your primary machine, your original machine goes down, you can be up and running with your mirror pretty quickly. You're going to lose some stuff, but not a lot. What it's really good for is inexpensive high availability. You've got 2 computers. They don't need to be any particular computers, though they should have similar performance characteristics, but you don't have to go crazy on that. And you don't have to invest a lot of money because that machine that is the mirror can be perfectly running database operations for other databases. So I've got the XYZ database that I'm mirroring to this machine. Well, it can have the ABC database running just like a normal database, no problem. So it's not like I'm wasting my hardware. So it's a great solution for protecting my data and for being inexpensive. What it's bad at is geography. If you're trying to geo-cluster, if you're trying to move these things separately from each other, not good. Don't do mirroring. You should also know, by the way, that mirroring is deprecated in SQL Server. That's a new term to you. What it means is it's going away. They announced that in SQL 2012. Was it 2012? They announced in 2012 that mirroring will go away. The outcry amongst the user community has been so great that Microsoft has reconsidered. No, they haven't changed their mind. Microsoft would never admit. It's like a politician admitting they're wrong. It ain't going to happen. But here's what they did. They said, no, database mirroring is deprecated. However, we're introducing in SQL 2017 a brand new feature called basic availability groups. If you look very carefully, they're exactly the same as mirroring. So in other words, what they've done is they've given us the ability to go from mirroring to basic availability groups with no change other than the name. So don't let the fact that mirroring is deprecated worry you. Availability groups. It protects the data. It protects the availability of the instance. And it also does one hidden thing that I think makes it the greatest solution. These, going back to this slide, these, before it failed over here, each of my secondaries is a read-only operation. But I should have put this into the slide, but I'll show you how bad I am at freehanding things with the mouse. As an example, it's read-only, but hey, reporting services only needs read-only data. I could run my reporting services off of there. I could run my backups off of here. And if I maybe off of this one or maybe a third one, I can do my consistency checks off of this copy. And they have no impact on my primary because they're just reading data. This is dream time for me. The ability to run DBCC CheckDB on databases that I didn't used to have time to run it on, meaning I would start it when I went home at night and the next morning it was still running. Well, now I don't care. I've got it running off of an asynchronous, or actually probably a synchronous copy of this database. And I don't care how long it takes. Nobody else is using that one. And all that cost me was the price of a piece of hardware and some licensing. So what is failover cluster, or what is availability group good for? Everything. What is it bad at? Not much, to be honest with you. It handles geography well. It handles failure well. The only thing that I would ask of availability groups, and I suspect it's just a matter of time, is I would like to have more synchronous partners, and I'd like to have more partners in general.